The rain came down in sheets that November evening, the kind of cold, relentless rain that makes you question every choice that led you outside. Sarah Mitchell stood beneath the flickering streetlight at the corner of 5th and Madison, her cardboard sign growing soggy in her trembling hands. The words she'd carefully written that morning, "Anything helps." God bless, were bleeding into illegible smears. She was 63 years old, though the streets had aged her face to somewhere beyond counting. Her story wasn't unique, not in this city of 8 million souls, but it was hers, and it mattered. What she didn't know, as she clutched her thin jacket against the biting wind, was that this night would change everything. Not just for her, but for the young woman watching from across the street, and for countless others whose lives would intersect in ways none of them could imagine. Maya Chen had been sitting in her car for 20 minutes, engine running, heater blasting, tears streaming down her face. She'd just left the hospital where her mother had been admitted again, the cancer spreading faster than the doctors had predicted. 3 months, they said. Maybe 6 if the treatment worked. Maya was 28, a social media manager for a tech startup, drowning in student loans and medical bills, working 70-hour weeks to stay afloat. She had exactly $47 in her checking account until Friday, and she'd just spent 30 of it on parking. She shouldn't have been looking across the street. She should have been driving home to her studio apartment, crawling into bed and letting exhaustion win. But something made her look up from her phone, made her see Sarah standing in that rain. And in that moment, Maya saw her mother. Not literally, but the vulnerability, the quiet dignity, the way someone can be invisible in plain sight until suddenly they're all you can see. Maya reached for her wallet before she could talk herself out of it. $17. It was supposed to buy groceries for the next 3 days. She'd planned it out precisely. Rice, beans, eggs, whatever vegetables were on sale. But her hand was already opening the car door, and her feet were already carrying her across the wet asphalt. "Ma'am?" Maya's voice came out softer than intended. "Ma'am, I'd like to give you this." Sarah looked up, and Maya saw eyes that held more stories than any book. There was surprise there, and something else, a flicker of hope that looked almost painful. "Bless you, sweetheart." Sarah's voice cracked. "You don't know what this means." "I think I do," Maya whispered, pressing the bills into Sarah's weathered hand. Then, impulsively, she pulled off her own scarf, navy blue and warm. "Please, take this too. It's cold." Sarah's fingers closed around the money and the scarf, and tears mixed with rain on her cheeks. "I'm going to pray for you tonight. What's your name?" Maya Chen." "I'm Sarah Mitchell." She wrapped the scarf around her neck. "I'm going to remember you, Maya Chen. I'm going to remember your kindness." Maya walked back to her car, shivering now without her scarf, $17 poorer, but feeling something she hadn't felt in months, something warm beneath the numbness. She didn't know that Sarah had meant those words literally. She didn't know that. Sarah kept a small notebook in her coat pocket, where she wrote down the name of every person who showed her kindness, along with the date and what they'd given her. It was her way of honoring them, of making sure they weren't forgotten. 3 days later, Maya was scrolling through her phone during her lunch break when she saw something that made her heart stop. It was a local news story. Homeless woman returns. Lost wallet with $5,000. To tourist family. The photo showed Sarah, her face unmistakable, handing an expensive leather wallet to a grateful couple with 2 children. The family had been visiting from Ohio, had accidentally left the wallet on a bench. Sarah had found it, waited 2 hours in the cold for them to return, then tracked down a police officer when they didn't show. Maya's hands shook as she read the article. The tourist family had started a crowdfunding campaign for Sarah, trying to raise enough money to get her off the streets. They'd set a goal of $10,000. So far, they'd raised $300. Maya shared the story on every social media platform she could think of. She wrote about meeting Sarah, about the way kindness could exist even in the hardest circumstances, about how this woman who had almost nothing had still chosen to do the right thing. She added Sarah's story to her company's social feeds, tagged every influencer and news outlet she could think of, and then she did something she'd never done before. She pulled out Sarah's notebook entry, Maya Chen, November 15th, navy scarf, $17, and she posted a photo of it with Sarah's permission, explaining what the notebook meant. The internet did what the internet sometimes does when a story touches the right nerve at the right time. It exploded. Within 24 hours, the crowdfunding campaign had raised $50,000. Within 48 hours, it was at $200,000. Local businesses reached out offering Sarah jobs, housing, support. A publishing company asked if they could turn her notebook into a book, with proceeds going to homeless services. Television shows wanted interviews. But the most remarkable thing wasn't the money or the attention. It was the movement that followed. People started sharing their own stories of small kindnesses, of moments when someone had helped them in their darkest hour. They started carrying scarves and gloves to give away. They started sitting with the homeless, learning their names, hearing their stories. They started notebooks of their own, documenting acts of kindness witnessed and received. Coffee shops began posting photos of regular customers who paid for strangers' drinks. Schools started Sarah's Scarf programs where students donated winter gear. The hashtag title, Her, began trending, a reminder to give people their dignity, to acknowledge them by name, to write their stories in permanent ink rather than letting them fade into invisibility. Maya found herself at the center of something she'd never imagined. Her modest following grew to hundreds of thousands. Job offers poured in, but more than that, she found purpose. She partnered with Sarah to create a nonprofit focused on telling the stories of homeless individuals, humanizing their struggles, connecting them with resources. They called it the Notebook Project. 4 months after that rainy November night, Maya stood on a small stage in a community center, her mother sitting in the front row. The latest round of treatment was working. They'd bought time, precious time. Next to her mother sat Sarah, no longer homeless, now living in a small apartment, and working as an outreach coordinator for the Notebook Project. Sarah's notebook, that precious record of kindness, had been digitized and turned into an interactive memorial wall where anyone could add stories of compassion they'd witnessed or received. "I want to tell you about the night I met Sarah," Maya began, her voice steady now. "I was at my lowest point. I had nothing extra to give. I was drowning in my own problems, my own pain. But I gave anyway, not because I'm special or heroic, but because in that moment I saw her, really saw her. And she saw me too." Maya looked at Sarah, who was crying openly, unashamed. Sarah kept my name in her notebook. She titled me Maya Chen, kind stranger. But here's what I've learned. We all need to be titled. We all need to be seen, to be named, to be remembered. Every person on the street, every stranger in line at the grocery store, every overwhelmed parent, every exhausted nurse, every struggling student, they all have a title, a name, a story that matters. She paused, gathering her thoughts. My mother is in that front row today. 6 months ago, I thought I was going to lose her. I was angry at the world, at the unfairness of it all. But that night, giving away the last of my money and my only warm scarf, I found something I'd lost, my own humanity. Sarah gave me that gift. She reminded me that we're all in this together, that our small acts of kindness ripple outward in ways we can never predict. The audience was silent, hanging on every word. "So here's what I'm asking you to do," Maya continued. "Title people. Learn their names, see them. It doesn't have to be money or scarves. It can be a smile, a conversation, a moment of acknowledgement. It can be sharing someone's story, amplifying their voice, refusing to let them be invisible. Every person you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Every person deserves to be titled, to be remembered, to matter." The applause started slowly, then built to a roar. But Maya wasn't finished. Sarah's notebook had 23 names in it when I met her. 23 people over 5 years who had shown her kindness when she was at her most vulnerable. Today, the Notebook Project has recorded over 50,000 stories of kindness in our city alone. 50,000 moments of humanity, 50,000 people choosing to see each other. And it started with $17 and a navy scarf on a cold November night. After the event, as people lined up to share their own stories, Maya found herself standing next to Sarah by the memorial wall. Someone had added a new entry. Sarah Mitchell reminded us all that wealth isn't measured in dollars but in dignity, that richness isn't in what we have but in what we give, that the most valuable currency is the time we spend seeing each other. You did this, Sarah whispered to Maya, gesturing at the crowded room, at the wall covered in stories, at the movement they'd somehow sparked. No, Maya said firmly, taking Sarah's hand. We did this, together. You kept that notebook for 5 years, honoring every person who showed you kindness. You waited 2 hours in the cold to return money you desperately needed. You chose integrity over survival. All I did was tell people your story. Sarah squeezed her hand. You gave me more than $17 and a scarf that night. Maya, you gave me my name back. You titled me. Maya's mother approached them, moving slowly but steadily, and pulled them both into an embrace. My daughter learned about kindness from me, she said softly. But she learned about courage from you. Sarah, thank you for being in that exact spot on that exact night. As the three women stood together, surrounded by the hum of conversation and the warmth of community, Maya thought about the invisible threads that connect us all. How one moment of kindness can cascade into a movement. How one person choosing to see another can change everything. How we're all just walking each other home, as the saying goes, and the least we can do is learn each other's names along the way. The rain fell again that night, but Maya didn't mind. She had a new scarf now, a gift from a woman whose life she'd helped change, who had in turn changed hers. And in her pocket she carried her own notebook, filling it with names and stories, titles and truths. Because everyone deserves to be seen. Everyone deserves to be remembered. Everyone deserves to be titled. The movement that started with Sarah's weathered notebook and Maya's impulsive generosity continued to grow, spreading across cities and countries. A reminder that in our darkest moments, kindness is the light we carry for each other. And sometimes, all it takes is one person willing to cross the street in the rain, to give when they have nothing left to give, to title someone who's been invisible too long. That's how revolutions begin, not with grand gestures or perfect people, but with ordinary humans choosing again and again to see each other, to name each other, to remember that we all matter, to title each other with the dignity we all deserve.